Hey, internet, we gotta have a little chat. Are things getting worse? I feel like things are not good in the gaming scene. I've been having a lot of thoughts lately about the past and games in general, and are things getting better? Are good games coming out? Are things worse than they were? Did we have it good 10 years ago? What's going on? The industry has clearly changed a ton in the last 10 years. We had our entire live service push. Tons of single player games got put on the back burner. Tons of games never got released. Tons of studios that used to be considered single player only game makers ended up making live service games in place of their traditional stuff. And I've been having a lot of thoughts lately about games in general and how they used to be evergreen products, and they just seem to be evolving with the way the rest of the internet and society is working, where it's just kind of all transient, completely in the moment, and that's it. See, I hold single player gaming and a lot of those games pretty close to my chest, pretty close to my heart. I never really feel too bad when a single player game gets released and I'm not there at launch, because most of the time doesn't matter. As long as that game got out the door, I know somebody somewhere will fight to preserve that thing and make sure everybody gets to experience it someday. But when it comes to most of the live service stuff, it's either you're there then or you're there never. The FOMO is incredibly real, and so much of that industry FOMO necessity, I don't know what the hell you would even call it, the need to make sure I'm always missing out. It's just such a huge part of the way the industry works these days that I just feel like a sigh of relief once I realize it's a single player game and it got released before it got canceled. I don't know if video games were actually better back then, but I feel like more games actually came out back then. Looking at the state of the industry, it really is just live service title after live service title, and then over the past 5 years, a lot of those live service titles launched, and then where are they now? I can name 3 huge major live service high profile games that launched, lost an insane amount of money, and are already out of commission. The obvious one of Concord, everybody knows about that disaster. The Suicide Squad from Rocksteady, and then Highguard. Look, these live service titles are sadly not that unique instances because it happened 3 times. There are plenty of live service games that have been canceled in the background that you and me will never get to see and have just been completely shelved before they ever made it out the door. I feel like because of this, I'm looking back at how things were about literally 10 years ago, and I'm just thinking, the release cadence of 2016, there might have been their controversies. Star Wars Battlefront 2 might have had fucking gambling mechanics in it, but things were somehow better. In one of my biggest videos, You're Part of the Last Generation of Gamers, I talk about how the games industry is kind of going in 2 different directions. The core gaming space is becoming more niche and more enthusiast, and the casual gaming space is becoming more like Roblox and more Fortnite, and I was completely blown away by the fact that Fortnite is as popular as it is. And so that just means that these big game companies that you and me love are going to shift more into that enthusiast side, and maybe someday they might fizzle out, maybe someday they won't. I am nostalgic for 10 years ago. Personally, my life was a fucking mess in 2016. I was not doing all that great. But the games that were coming out around that time, we got fucking Breath of the Wild in 2017. That game is still defining an entire generation of Nintendo fans. And yet it's a decade later, and Tears of the Kingdom was the last one, and that's just a Breath of the Wild sequel, and that era is still going. Things haven't really changed all that much. Looking back towards the PlayStation 4, we had giant releases like Uncharted 4, God of War 2018, Spider-Man, which is huge. And then looking back to PlayStation 5, it's just kind of more of the same deal. And then looking at Xbox, been a mess. Their game cadence release has been terrible, and Gears of War is still around, Forza is still around, Halo is all over the place. Maybe things will get better. I have no idea. It just feels like things were good when games were releasing consistently as single player packages or as a complete product, not as a service. I feel like I was having a lot more fun way back when, and I felt like things were a bit more exciting. But it's such a weird weird catch-22 because I know with the way that I feel about a lot of this stuff, there is nostalgia goggles in place. I'm completely aware of like how shitty of a time I was having with my life and with the world in many places, and yet Star Wars Battlefront 2 had fucking gambling mechanics. They ruined one of my favorite childhood follow-up games, but I still miss those moments, and I don't understand that. But yet, I'm still hit with a little bit just thinking that, you know, that was kind of a golden age in some ways. Like, there were good things releasing, things that people really cared about that have left an impact on thousands of people, millions of people over time. And yet, there was a lot of bullshit, but things were still great. Things were still pretty fun. I felt like there was a wealth of things to play. You know, one of the best things about the game industry is the fact that video games are evergreen products. If you release it and not in the form of a service, but as a product, they get to pretty much live forever. As long as people are willing to preserve, put in the work, and get that stuff out there, those things never really go away. They never really lose their true value. They might get cheaper on a storefront for an insane deal, but for the most part, Mass Effect 2 is still fucking Mass Effect 2. I bring up Mass Effect because I've been playing through the Mass Effect Legendary Edition lately. I've been having a ton of fun going back and playing through those games and realizing those 3 titles all came out in the same console generation. You could have played Mass Effect 1, 2, and 3 all on an Xbox 360, all on a PlayStation 3, and get the entire trilogy in one nice little package as it carried through. I didn't have to wait for the next generation for that conclusion of that story to come out. I could just continue to move through it. And so that's one of the things that has made me realize that video games are evergreen. I never played Mass Effect 3 when it came out. I heard terrible things about the ending of that game, but the Mass Effect Legendary Edition has very nicely packaged up all of the titles in one place for me to play and carry my save forward. And you know what? I already know how Mass Effect 3 ends, but there's a million little personal stories, ways that the characters wrap up their own journeys that I'm not aware of what happens. So giving me that shot now, it's an evergreen product. That experience of Mass Effect 3 is still here for me to enjoy. Bullshit ending cutscenes galore, and I'm having a blast. It's super fucking nice to know that, like, look, I may have missed the moment when everyone was upset about that stuff, but I haven't missed the game. Still here, still ready for me to play. It does also have that double-sided coin of me looking around being like, that game might still be here, but like nothing has really come along to replace it or to follow that stuff up. Like Mass Effect Andromeda, maybe the gameplay was really fun. I fell out of that because I know the story and the presentation of it wasn't compelling. And so that's got me looking back thinking, what happened to all these franchises? Where did they go? What happened to everybody? Why did they all disappear? Why the fuck can't I play a Mass Effect 4 yet? What happened to the industry? And it's just so many bets on live service got placed. 2 of the like 50 bets actually hit. And for the people that were in those handful of slots, like Fortnite, Apex Legends, Helldivers 2, the Roblox, GTA 5, for every single one of those games, there are like 20 other live service titles right behind those that just did not pan out because turns out everybody's time is pretty limited. And if you make every single game be a live service, all-encompassing title, not everyone's going to make it. You just can't have that many on the market. It's like we made the exact same mistake with MMOs forever ago. MMOs were a huge craze. They took forever to make. They were very difficult. And if you couldn't garner a huge audience, they didn't pay off. And WoW was king and WoW got to keep being king and RuneScape kept being RuneScape. But fucking dude, like the rest of them just couldn't make it. It's just too much. It was too much market saturation. I'm feeling incredibly nostalgic for a time period that was completely destroyed, but also happy to know that like none of that actually went anywhere. Plenty of people put in the effort to preserve that stuff just by the nature of it being a completely copyable digital hobby. There's plenty of space, plenty of time for me to go back and experience those things. And so that's great. And a lot of those titles that I'm so dearly in love with ended up getting relaunched into new packages, and I can buy them again on the platform that I love. And some are going to see that as a negative. I see it as somewhat of a positive. It's just that stuff gets to stay. We get to keep those things. And, you know, in the time when a lot of these games and these franchises are not giving you the next big thing, they just haven't had a follow-up in decades. Like, there is unbelievably huge library in the background that is still worth my time. I let slip by just because there were other things to do, other stuff to play, and like that stuff isn't really going anywhere. There's emulation, there's like all of these crazy PC ports. If you get it onto a PC platform, there's a fucking Steam Deck that can play literally everything from that generation onwards. Like, as long as it's PlayStation 4, Xbox One, and Wii U backwards, like that stuff's compatible. And there's a Steam machine coming around the corner, a fully moddable PC console that's going to play literally everything on the planet that you want with its varying degrees of performance. That stuff all exists. And yeah, I'm feeling grateful that a lot of the industry is still available to me. Video games are evergreen products as long as they're not these live service monstrosities. And so you will always have the chance to try out that stuff that you love. And I think that the years have somewhat not been kind to the industry. It's shrinking to a certain degree. Many more studio closures are coming around, but we're not getting as much stuff as we used to. But there are plenty of things in the past that are still worth your time. So go check it out if you're curious. What games are you guys playing that are over decades old? Maybe it's from the past decade. Maybe you're still trying it out now. I have a ton of friends that still go back and play a lot of the old Elder Scrolls games just because they just aren't making those ones very fast. And that's hundreds, thousands of hours of content available at your fingertips that you can still go experience to this day. What's a game that you still play that is ridiculously old that you're having a good time enjoying? Thanks for checking in this week. I will see you guys next time.